This conversation is something I've been really looking forward to because you are a unique individual in the insurance industry. From your days at Diamond on to kind of where you are now, can you kind of give us a little bit of a historical perspective about who Andrew Robinson is?
Yeah, so my background spent 20 years in strategy consulting, did a couple startups that were Bain spinoffs, was part of a group that started Diamond Technology Partners, which was a really interesting, innovative consulting firm. Today is PwC Consulting. I ran the global insurance practice, and I did that for about 10 years. Left and joined a company called Hanover Insurance Group in 2005, and at the time, Hanover was I would describe it as certainly a second-tier insurance company, a couple $2 billion, not particularly a good performer. And I joined in with the CEO as part of the remaking of that organization. 11 years later, that business was a vastly different business, far more diversified, $5.5 billion. We tripled the market value of the company. We made a $1.5 billion acquisition in the Lloyd's of London, which was a sea change. And my roles there is I ran one of the 4 business units, the domestic specialty insurance business, which was 0 when I joined and $750 million when I left. I was the head of corporate development. We did 11 transactions. I was chief risk officer, and I sat on the board of Chaucer, our Lloyd's of London subsidiary. So did a lot when I was there. I left, had a short stint at Crawford & Company as the global COO. I ran $1.1 billion of businesses, 4 different businesses, and concluded that really I wanted to fully commit myself to the insurtech space, and I left and I joined Oak. And my joining of Oak is timely. It's my first day was yesterday, and I'm very excited about the outlook.
Oh, congratulations. So, what's interesting about that story, that kind of life timeline, is you started with Diamond, and for those of you who don't know, Diamond was just an amazing,
very innovative,
consultant.
very innovative.
In and of itself was innovative, and I think that's the operative word, right? And then you go from there into kind of a traditional mainstream carrier that needed something.
Right.
So talk to me about that experience and how your innovation or innovative way of thinking was applied to the growth in that company.
Yeah, so Hanover was a player in small commercial personal lines in the 4 worst states in the country, and that wasn't a winning formula. So part of this was really about how it is we shape the portfolio to participate in the profit pools in the industry. And we basically said that when we're going to do it, we'll use acquisitions, we'll do de novo startups, we'll go with some teams. But in building that, we wanted to build it from the ground up, and a lot of that was technology enabled. And so in businesses like professional liability and executive liability, surety, the E&S business, all those businesses were built with a really interesting, innovative technology foundation. And fortunately, my boss, the CEO, gave me and the organization license to go pursue that, and that was part of the formula. And it was a lot of fun. It was part of the way that a second-tier company could attract A talent, because our proposition was, we're going to allow you to run the business, and we're also going to invest in the business in ways that others wouldn't do. And that was a really exciting thing.
Created a culture from the top down that enabled the
tone from the top was very much part of it. Right. No question about it.
Because you got to, even if you have A players, if you don't have the culture from the top down that enables that and encourages that and creates excitement around the innovation and the things that the ROI and the market change that you could accomplish through that.
Yeah, no,
it's defeating.
And I would say in Lloyd's of London, which is a notoriously difficult market to keep talent, very difficult market to acquire a company and be successful. We acquired $1.5 billion company, and it's probably the greatest success story of a strategic buyer in the history of Lloyd's of London. And I think a lot of that started with the tone from the top and the sort of the philosophy that we had as an organization. It was a really wonderful turnaround story, a one-of-a-kind story actually in the insurance history. So
let's kind of stay on this theme of this innovation influence in your life through Diamond and Hanover, and then the rest of it to where you are now. What caused you to join Oak?
So backdrop is when I left Hanover, I started getting actively involved in the insurtech space, and so that involved a few things. People that I knew who I found really interesting in terms of what they were doing. I basically decided to start to leverage my contacts, my relationships, my experience to help them build those businesses, and I participated in shaping the products, certainly helping them get access to key executives, fundraising, and then ultimately made direct investments myself, and I'm a board member of these companies. So I'm involved in 4 InsurTech startups. These are all companies that are kind of through their Series A funding. And so I had the bug, going back well over a year ago. And a lot of it started here, interestingly enough, at this event was sort of a pivotal event. And so when I went into Crawford, it just forced me to really think that that wasn't the right thing. And Oak as an organization is really unique. It's it's a company that kind of stands above others in what it does. It's got this long history in health tech and fintech. Underneath Oak Investment Partners became an independently focused firm driven by their LPs back in 2014, raised a $500 million fund in 2014, another one here in 2017 that closed earlier this year. And their appetite is different. It's a firm that I would describe as a multi-stage equity growth fund, and the ability to put $10 to $50 million to work, but an appetite to work with early stage companies as well, and that's unique. And the vision that we have with me joining is there's a half a dozen really big plays we want to go after. We think there's a lot of capabilities here that if we make multiple investments but join some things together, there's an opportunity to transform big parts of the insurance industry, and quite honestly, that's the agenda that I'm working on with them.
So with that backdrop, how do you have a perspective on how the industry, the mainstream carriers, the mainstream reinsurance companies are viewing innovation?
Right. So the first thing I'd say is that I am not one of these people who subscribe to InsurTech is this highly disruptive thing. I am a big believer that insurance companies are strong and capable entities that can deliver a lot of value to the marketplace, to our society. And really it's a question of how it is that you're going to catalyze some change and enable those organizations. Maybe there's some disruption, but by and large I don't think that that's really going to be the headline. Fundamentally, 40 cents of every premium dollar spent on things that don't add value to customers, right? So that has to change. And then the flip side of that is the 60 cents that does add value. There's so much that's happening in terms of sensor technology, new forms of data that will inform the way that products are delivered, the way that risk is selected, the way that risk is priced. I see that there's a lot of economic change that's going to happen in that 40 cents that doesn't deliver a lot of value, and the way that the real loss content that is the value to the customers, that's going to evolve as well with new products and services, new pricing, new risk selection methods, and our thinking is there's opportunities that are big in both those categories, and so that's where our focus is going to go.
Right, you use the word new markets, new categories, because we see innovation as kind of the constant pursuit of efficiency toward a strategic domain where there is a ROI,
right,
where there is a new market, where there is growth. Otherwise, there's no reason to innovate. You just stay where you are, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, what advice would you give to an InsurTech that is kind of at an early stage, right? And they're trying to figure out now, how do I attack this industry that seems so hard to penetrate?
There's a lot of advice I can give. There are probably 3 things that jump out at me. The first is I do think that there's a lot of really great point solution things out there that are interesting unto themselves, but to really garner the attention, there's so much happening here, all this change. To garner the attention, I think that you need to step back and think about your place in a broader ecosystem. And I would almost say get yourself connected to that broader ecosystem where real change can happen. So there's lots of great examples of many of these companies being embraced by the incumbents, but to rise to the CEO agenda and really drive the kind of impact that's available, it potentially might mean connecting in ways with other companies that you might not necessarily think of doing as an early stage company. And I think that's a big part of it. So that's one. I think the second thing is and this might sound self-serving, but I believe the connectedness to real insurance executives who have real chops and can help you think about your place and the way that you can create value in the industry is critically important. There is some level, less this year than last year, but there's some level of irreverence towards our industry, which I think is foolhardy for many InsurTech startups, and I would strongly advise to get a really good body of advisors that you can access and invest in those, right? And I think that that's a key point of value. The third thing is fundraising, because I've been through this quite a bit now. And in fact, I gave this advice to a guy today who I think has a really interesting business, who's getting some messages back from venture capital that now is forcing him to shape his business in a way that isn't really the core intent. And my advice to him was, don't do that. Your business is really good. You need people telling you that your business is really good. Find the venture capital, find the sponsors who are going to be interested in your business. Don't try to evolve your business to be attractive to a particular sponsor because they say this is the hot thing. And I really do believe that. And if you don't find that sponsor, then there might be a question about the viability of your business, but don't just default to saying, oh, well these characteristics, I need to be a data provider, I need to be in this particular domain because that's the message I'm hearing. I think there's a bit of fool's gold, and I've advised that for the guys that I'm involved in. Do what you really think is the right thing, and validate that it's the right thing, and then find the people who want to invest in that and be really great at that.
Exactly. So one of the things you said early on was that you got to be able to fit, you got to be able to integrate. I think that's one of the hallmarks of an insurtech. You can't see what your potentially wonderful idea is as a be-all and end-all, right, because it's just a little piece to a long supply chain.
And a great example of that is, and the guys I'm involved in benefit, two great examples. Insurion and Trove are two investments of Oak, and with Insurion, a couple of the things that I'm involved in, I'm able to connect those things into Insurion, and quite honestly, you're connecting into an ecosystem that otherwise they might not connect into, right? They would look at the market traditionally as traditional brokers or traditional carriers. Insurion's doing some very innovative things, helping these guys accelerate in a very strategic way, and maybe otherwise they wouldn't have access to that ecosystem. So I think tapping into that is, it's an important thing.
Absolutely. Well, Andrew, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Your perspective on innovation, both from a company perspective and from the InsurTech perspective, is unique, and I appreciate you giving it to us today.
Thank you.